So how do I make my Lego stop motions? Well, today I'm going to answer that question by taking step by step as I make a movie. But first, what even is stop motion? As you probably know, a video is really just a bunch of still images, but it's played back fast enough to trick the eye into thinking that it's seeing something move. We can do the same technique with stop motion, where we take a bunch of still images of a car or something, and then move the car each time we take a new picture. And so when we take all those pictures, we can put it into an app like Stop Motion Studio, which turns it into a video file. So now let's get on with making the movie. The first thing obviously is to think of an idea. I already have one. I'm thinking I'm gonna have like this gang that's gonna go rob a bank, and while they're robbing the bank, somebody comes and steals the keys to the getaway car. So now after this, some people would write down the whole story plot and get all the dialogue and everything. I don't do that. I like to just kind of jump into filming it with a rough idea of the movie and just kind of see what happens. It's probably better to make a better plan, but that's just the way I do it. So I'm just going to start with the first scene, which is going to be the boss talking to the other guys in the gang of how they're going to rob the bank and what they're going to do. This is just kind of to set up the viewer for what's going on. So for a scene like this where it's mostly talking, I like to do the voices first, like all the dialogue and everything, because I like to know how long it actually takes the character to talk so that I can base the stop motion off of that. So I've got this script I've kind of written out of them talking. The main robber is like this Australian accent. I'm gonna see how that goes. I basically just want him to sound different than the other guys. But anyway, let's just give this a shot. Right, mates, I've got this heist all planned out. We're going in about 10 because they're working on the security cameras. And when we go in, Billy's going to point his gun around the place. I'm going to do the talking, and Fred, it's your job to handle all the cash. And then after we get the money, we jump in the car, and Johnny, you're going to drive us out as fast as you can. Right, everybody understand? So now I'm going to have two of the robbers respond.
Uh-huh. Yo, we'll be out of there before you can even blink.
Right, everybody understand?
Uh-huh. Yo, we'll be out of there before...
I'm just gonna make that a little quieter. Right, everybody understand?
Uh-huh. Yo, we'll be out of there before you can even blink.
And remember, mates, no dynamite. And that's actually a reference to a Lego movie where this Robert kept wanting to use dynamite in their plan to get this guy out of jail.
And to pass the ever-vigilant canine unit, we'll need...
Dynamite?
No! That's when the kitten comes in.
Okay, so now I'm ready to actually start shooting the movie. I've got the timestamps written out, like when people need to say stuff and everything, how long it's going to take. And now I start taking pictures, moving the figure just a little bit at a time. And I'm going to be shooting at 10 FPS, so that's going to be about 240 pictures for this shot. Now for a scene like this where it's talking and stuff, it might not actually be 240 pictures because I can just pause the frame for a second or two. And so that's like 10 or 20 pictures I don't have to take. So apparently my head was in front of the light a little bit, so when I moved my head after each shot, it was creating these shadows on the left side of the screen. But since the characters over on the left never actually move, I can just use masking to erase the clip with the shadow, showing through the previous clip that didn't have a shadow, and that way keep it consistent the whole way through. Two minutes later, I can get back to filming. One problem though is when I was doing all that masking, I bumped the camera a lot, so it's not on the same thing. And also, when you like do masking or editing or anything in Stop Motion Studio, it resets all your camera settings for whatever reason. And so to make it so no one sees like a set bump or a jump, I'm just gonna switch camera angles now. which isn't too bad because since it's just a talking thing, it's good to switch angles every once in a while to keep the interest of the viewer. You know what, I think you get the point. Let's skip to the editing part. I'm basically taking the video file and matching it up with the audio I just recorded. After doing a little bit of editing, I've realized that right here, watch this guy's hand. I messed up. I was trying to erase the shadows and I erased his hand and then showing where his hand was in the last frame. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause it and then completely just remove that right there. And that way I can have the camera switch right when he starts talking. So, hi, it's all planned out. We go in at about 10 because they're working on the security cameras. I think that's much better. I'm just going to add a little stabilization because I bumped my thing too much. So the next part of the movie is going to be them actually going and robbing the bank. So I animated these clips here of the car driving, pretty straightforward. The next shots are going to be going kind of back and forth between the guys inside the bank robbing and the guy in the getaway car. Now I'm just going to animate all the ones on the outside and all the ones on the inside just to make it easier. Alright, so now that I've done a bunch of filming, I've got pretty much the whole movie here. I'm going to just fill in the rest of the audio. Everybody put your hands up, this is a robbery. Come on, let's get out of here. What do you mean you can't?
What just happened? No, the keys are gone. I can't. Somebody stole the keys.
Probably that Gunford guy. The next dialogue to record is the police officer telling everybody to get out of the car. But he's actually talking through his speakers. And so instead of just recording the audio, I record it, play it back through my speaker, and record the speaker.
Get out of the car with your hands up.
And then I'll play that back through the speaker.
Get out of the car with your hands up.
And now the next thing to do is add sound effects. So I'm adding a little ambient city noise along with noise for the actual car driving. And there's a shot where the guy gets drug out of his car and it goes black. So I'm going to have a little sound effect for him falling out of the car. Add a police siren.
Get out of the car with your hands up.
So now that I've added all the sound effects, I can get to doing the music. Now there's this great site called filmmusic.io where it's got a bunch of free music that you can use as long as you give attribution. So I have 2 music clips from that. One for the beginning when they're planning out the robbery. I'm gonna do the talking, and Fred, it's your job to handle all the cash. And then after we get the money, and then one for when they're actually going to the bank and robbing it. And that's it, I've made a movie. Now I'm sure you want to see the finished product, so you can click right here to watch that video. You can subscribe if you want too.